The economic effects of the coronavirus pandemic are also being felt in many sectors of the global economy, aviation and oil in particular. And they're hitting the biggest players after already announcing it would cut aircraft production by a third and that the company was, quote, bleeding cash at an unprecedented speed. The plane-making giant Airbus has posted a first-quarter loss of $500 million. The CEO is warning this is the gravest crisis the industry has ever known. Its rival Boeing already announced plans to cut as many as 7,000 jobs. The company's chief executive predicts global revenues could drop by over $300 billion this year in the industry, and it would take years to recover. And on top of all that, the UK's national carrier British Airways is set to cut up to 12,000 jobs, which is around a third of its workforce. The airline suspended 96% of its flights for April and May. We've got Tom Ballantyne with us now on Skype. He is the Associate Editor and Chief Correspondent of Orient Aviation from Sydney. Thank you, Tom. Good to see you. I mean, no massive surprise that Airbus has lost this much money, but I guess it's the knock-on effect, isn't it? The next quarter and the next quarter after that. In fact, as the Boeing boss was saying, for years afterwards.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Kamal. I mean, the situation is, as the Airbus boss said, very grave, and things are going to get worse in the second quarter. The fact is that aircraft are 90% of the world's fleet is sitting on the ground, and the last thing airlines want at the moment is to take delivery of more seats that they'll have to park. I know that airlines around the world are currently, right now, in discussion with both Airbus and Boeing, looking at not only cancellations, but certainly many deferrals of deliveries, because they simply don't want these aircraft right now.
I hate to oversimplify here, but if the plane makers can't make planes and the carriers can't fly planes, there's no industry. And that could be a short-term thing because the lockdowns could be lifted, we could see a change. But even so, the industry's changed, or it will have to change.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the fact is that we all know now that this recovery, when it comes, is not going to be a sharp V-shaped recovery. It's going to be a long U-shaped recovery. And it's going to be a long time before the air transport network is going to be back where it was before the crisis. We're talking about a year, up to 2 years. So that's an awful long time for airlines to hold out, for the plane makers to hold out. They certainly need all the help they can get from governments, from their investors. And these governments and investors are also facing economic problems. They're facing recession, shortages of cash all around. So it's going to be a long time before the industry has any chance of returning to what isn't going to be normal, but some sort of normal.
I think it's not inconceivable that some airlines will go to the wall on this. They may go under, or, as in British Airways' case, having to majorly reconstruct the size of the company. But if the plane makers themselves get into that situation, I mean, what happens? Are these companies considered in like the banks, the too big to fail, because there's only really two big players?
Yeah, pretty much that's the case. I mean, the fact is there are only two big players. And if you look at Airbus, I mean, they're essentially owned by four governments, the UK, Spain, France and Germany. They do have quite a lot of cash reserves, despite what is happening at the moment. Boeing is also a big company. And in the case of Boeing, it gets something like 34% of its revenue, not from commercial jets, but from the defence and aerospace divisions of its company. Airbus, on the other hand, gets only about 20% of its revenues from defence. So they are more reliant on the commercial jet market than Boeing are. There's no question that they will not collapse. They'll see this through, but they're not going to come out at the other end in the same shape as they are at the moment.
Tom, I could sit and talk aviation with you all day, but I do have to get to some other news. Thank you so much for your time. Do appreciate it.